Marko, a 24-year-old barista from San Francisco, saw a message on his boyfriend Eliot's phone. "I'll see you tomorrow, sweetheart." 3 years together and a betrayal with their friend Tyler? Marko did not cry. He plotted revenge, which turned everything upside down. The truth was worse than he had imagined. Marko, a 24-year-old barista from San Francisco's vibrant Castro district, trudged home after a grueling shift at the coffee shop. The air smelled of espresso and freedom. Drag queens strutted past, rainbow flags fluttered above the street, and the hum of life in the city's queer heart usually lifted his spirits. But tonight, exhaustion clung to him like damp fog rolling off the bay. At 26, his boyfriend Eliot, a freelance graphic designer with a sharp wit and a crooked smile, had been his anchor for 3 years. Together they'd faced the world side-eye, the muttered slurs from cabbies, the "You're confusing the kids" lectures from Marko's uncle. They'd built something real, or so he thought. He tossed his keys onto the cluttered counter of their tiny apartment, the walls plastered with Eliot's sketches and Polaroids of their adventures, pride parades, late-night tacos, a blurry shot of them kissing under the Golden Gate Bridge. The place was quiet, too quiet. Eliot wasn't home, probably out on a late-night gig, Marko figured. Then he saw it, Eliot's phone, buzzing softly on the sagging couch. Marko wasn't the jealous type. Trust was their unspoken pact, forged against a world that often refused to understand. But curiosity, or maybe a gut twitch he couldn't name, pulled him closer. He swiped the screen awake. A text glared up at him. "Can't wait for tomorrow, love." The sender? Tyler. Their Tyler, the lanky bartender from the dive bar down the street, the guy who'd slung shots at their table during last year's Pride after-party, the friend who'd crashed on their floor after too many beers. "Love?" The words slammed into Marko's chest like a brick. His breath caught, his vision swimming as the implications sank in. 3 years, 3 damn years, of fighting for each other, of proving they could make it, and Eliot was texting Tyler like that. His hands shook as he snapped a screenshot, the evidence searing into his phone. He set the device back, exactly as it was, his mind racing. Tears didn't come. Marko wasn't wired for that. Instead, a cold fire sparked in his gut, sharp and unyielding. If this was real, if Eliot was cheating with their best friend, he wouldn't crumble. He'd dig up the truth and make them pay, not with fists or shouting matches, but with something smarter, something they'd never see coming. The lock clicked minutes later, and Eliot breezed in, all casual charm. "Hey, babe! Long shift?" he called, dropping his laptop bag and pecking Marko's cheek. His voice was light, oblivious, as he rummaged for a beer in the fridge. "Yeah," Marko muttered, forcing a tight smile. "You? Same old grind." Eliot shrugged, popping the cap. "Out late designing." Liar, Marko thought, watching him sip that beer like nothing was wrong. The screenshot burned a hole in his pocket, Tyler's "love" looping in his head. He didn't confront him, not yet. He needed more, needed to see it with his own eyes. That night, as Eliot snored beside him, Marko stared at the ceiling, the hum of Castro filtering through the cracked window. Tomorrow, he'd follow. Tomorrow, he'd know. This wasn't the end, it was the beginning of something darker, something he'd control. The city outside pulsed, alive and unforgiving, and Marko felt its rhythm sync with his resolve. Whatever Eliot and Tyler were hiding, he'd rip it open. And when he did, they'd regret ever crossing him. Marko woke with a start, the screenshot of Tyler's "Can't wait for tomorrow, love" etched into his mind like a scar. The bed was empty, Eliot's side cold, a post-it on the counter scrawled with "Early gig back tonight." Marko's stomach twisted, a cocktail of dread and fury. He called in sick to the coffee shop, his voice steady despite the storm inside, and grabbed his hoodie. If Eliot was meeting Tyler today, he'd catch them in the act. No more blind trust, no more excuses. He'd trail him, see the betrayal unfold, and plan his next move. San Francisco buzzed outside, cable cars clanged, street vendors hawked breakfast burritos, and the Castro's rainbow crosswalks gleamed under the morning sun. Marko pulled his hood low, blending into the Saturday swarm of tourists and locals. He spotted Eliot 2 blocks ahead, that familiar mop of dark hair bobbing as he lugged his laptop bag toward the Muni station. Marko followed, keeping a safe distance, the train's rumble masking his pounding heart. They surfaced in the heart of the district, where rainbow flags snapped in the breeze and queer couples strolled hand in hand, a scene that once felt like home, now tainted by suspicion. Eliot slipped into a sleek cafe on 18th Street, exposed brick walls, Edison bulbs dangling, the kind of spot they'd hit up together for overpriced lattes. Marko lingered across the street, ducking behind a rack of free queer zines, his phone ready. Then Tyler appeared, tall, leather-jacketed, that cocky grin flashing as he leaned against an outdoor table. Eliot walked up, and they hugged, too tight, too long, Eliot's hand lingering on Tyler's shoulder. Marko's fingers tightened around his phone as he zoomed in, snapping shaky shots. They sat, knees brushing under the table, laughing like they owned the damn place. It hit Marko like a freight train. This wasn't friendship. This was something else. But then the doubts crept in, clawing at his certainty. Was he jumping the gun? Tyler flirted with everyone. It was his bartender shtick, all charm and no substance. Eliot always waved it off, teasing Marko for overthinking. Maybe this was innocent, a hangout blown out of proportion. Growing up gay in a world that preached tolerance but delivered judgment, the sneers from his high school coach, his mom's "Why can't you be normal?" sighs, had left Marko wired for paranoia. He'd seen too many relationships tank under that weight, trust crumbling like sandcastles. Had he pushed Eliot away with his need for something solid, something the world couldn't touch? What if he was the fool here, turning a nothing into a nightmare? He edged closer, slipping behind a gaggle of dragged brunch stragglers, and strained to hear. Fragments floated over, Tyler's low laugh, Eliot saying, "You get me, man," but nothing damning. Then Tyler reached out, fingers grazing Eliot's wrist, and Eliot didn't flinch. Marko's breath hitched, the doubts burning away in a flash of rage. Friends didn't touch like that, not with that ease. He snapped another photo, the click loud in his ears, and pulled back, pulse racing. This wasn't his imagination. This was real, raw, and rotting. The Muni ride back was a blur, packed tight with strangers. Marko scrolled through the pics, Eliot's grin, Tyler's hand, the intimacy he'd missed for months. He thought of their first pride, dancing in the streets, glitter in their hair, Eliot swearing they'd defy the odds. Now it felt like a con. But he wouldn't storm in yet. He needed more, proof that'd shred their lies. As the train rattled toward home, his phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered, voice low. "Yeah?" A raspy whisper cut through. "They're hiding more. Check his phone again. You're only scratching the surface." The line went dead. Marko froze. Who the hell was this? Ally? Enemy? His grip tightened. Whatever it was, he'd dig deeper. This game was just heating up. Marko barely slept, the cafe photos and that cryptic whisper. "You're only scratching the surface," gnawing at him like a bad itch. Eliot's soft snores beside him felt like a taunt, every breath a lie. The betrayal was close enough to choke on. 3 years of late-night talks, of dodging slurs on Market Street, of building a life in the Castro's loud, proud chaos, now unraveling. By dawn, Marko was a live wire, coffee scalding his throat, eyes red-rimmed, plotting. He'd caught them together, sure, but blurry pics weren't enough. He needed a knockout punch, something to bury their excuses. Eliot bolted early, muttering about a client pitch, as he grabbed his laptop bag and vanished. Marko waited, counting to 10, then sprang into action. He tore through Eliot's desk, old USB drives, crumpled post-its, nothing juicy, until his phone buzzed on the counter. Unknown number again. He snatched it up. "Hello?" The same raspy voice hissed. "Check his photos. They're planning something big. You're running out of time." Click. Marko's pulse spiked. Who was this shadow feeding him crumbs? A friend? A foe? He didn't care, he'd use it. He grabbed Eliot's phone from the charger, unlocked, thank God for sloppy habits, and dove in. Texts with Tyler were too clean, suspiciously sparse, but then he struck gold, a photo tucked in a random album. 2 plane tickets to Seattle, dated 3 days out. Eliot's name on one, Tyler's on the other. No Marko. The room spun. Were they ditching him for good? A getaway to start over, leaving him in the dust? His hands trembled as he screenshotted, the pieces clicking. Eliot's gigs. Tyler's smug vibe, the love text. This wasn't just cheating. This was a full-on escape plan. He sank onto the couch, staring at the tickets glowing on his screen. Seattle, rain, coffee, a fresh slate. A place to shed San Francisco, to shed him. Memories clawed at him, fights where he'd pushed for more, a lease with both their names, a ring someday. Eliot always danced around it, laughing off Marko's seriousness, like it was a quirk. Had he smothered him? The world didn't help, his dad's. It's a phase. Jabs, the stares on the Muni when they held hands. Marko thought they'd forged something unbreakable, but maybe he'd missed the cracks. Still, that voice nagged. Something big. What else was there? He paced, the hum of the city seeping through the walls, replaying the call. Urgent, knowing, someone in too deep. Tyler pulling strings? Eliot hiding more? Marko's anger flared hotter. If they thought they could vanish and leave him broken, they'd underestimated him. He scrolled the photos again, Eliot and Tyler at the cafe, the tickets, and a plan crystallized. Confronting them now was too raw, they'd spin it, gaslight him. No, he'd play smarter. A party, public, packed, a trap they couldn't dodge. He'd surprise Eliot, invite Tyler and their Castro crew, and let the truth spill where they couldn't run. He texted the group chat. Party at ours Friday. Bring booze. Replies pinged, drag queens RSVP'd, a DJ offered to spin. By Friday, the apartment was primed, lights twinkling, bass thumping, vodka lined up like soldiers. Eliot walked in at 7, brows shooting up. What's this, babe? He asked, dropping his bag. Felt festive, Marko said, his grin a mask. You deserve it. Eliot beamed, clueless, cocky, pouring drinks as guests rolled in. Tyler swaggered through 20 minutes later, clapping Marko's back. Sweet setup, man. Marko nodded, tasting bile. The net was set. Soon it'd tighten. The party pulsed through Marko's apartment, a kaleidoscope of Castro chaos. Drag queens in sequins twirled to thumping beats, liquor flowed like the bay's tides, and laughter bounced off the walls plastered with Eliot's art. Marko played host, all smiles and small talk, but his eyes tracked Eliot and Tyler like a hawk circling prey. The Miami tickets, the cafe photos, that raspy voice warning of something big, it all churned in his gut, fueling him. Tonight, he'd rip their lives apart, not with screams, but with a spotlight they couldn't escape. Eliot mingled, beer in hand, oblivious charm dialed up as he chatted with their DJ buddy. Tyler lounged near the kitchen, flirting with a drag queen, his leather jacket slung over a chair. They kept it subtle, no overt touches, just quick glances, but Marko saw the thread between them, electric and undeniable. He bided his time, sipping a soda he didn't taste, until the room hit peak buzz. Hey everyone! He shouted, voice cutting through the noise. Heads turned. He swiped his phone, syncing it to the TV, and fumbled. The cafe photos splashed across the screen, Eliot and Tyler, knees brushing, smiles too intimate. A chorus of oohs rippled through the crowd. Marko feigned shock. Oops, what's this? Eliot's face went white. Marko, what the hell? He stammered, stepping forward. Tyler's laugh was too loud, too brittle. Dude, relax, it's nothing. Marko tilted his head, voice syrupy. Nothing? Weird, 'cause I found this too. Another swipe, and the Seattle tickets glowed. Eliot and Tyler, no Marko. Gasps pinged around the room. Eliot lunged for the remote, but Marko held it high. Explain, he said, cold as steel. Tyler cracked first, voice spiking. Fine. He was gonna ditch you, okay? I pushed him, he's been a mess. The crowd hushed. Eliot whirled on him. Shut up, Ty. But Tyler barreled on, unraveling. He's lying to you, Marko. He's scared of you knowing the real shit. I made him keep quiet. Marko's breath caught. Real shit? Tyler froze, then spat it out. I've got dirt. He botched a job last year, lifted cash from a client. I threatened to tell if he didn't play along. The room spun silent, phones out, recording the implosion. Eliot's eyes darted, pleading. Marko, it's not like that. I didn't want him, I swear. Tyler had me cornered. Marko stared, the twist sinking in. Blackmail, not just betrayal. You let him use you, he said low and lethal. And you both used me. Eliot reached out, voice cracking. I was trapped, your dreams, his threats. I couldn't breathe. Marko stepped back, the word dreams a knife. 3 years of fighting for them, against his sisters. You're too loud. Diggs, the stairs on the F line. He thought Eliot was in it too. But fear had turned him into a puppet. The party erupted, guests whispering, Tyler bolting for the door. Then Marko's phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered, slipping to the hall. Tyler's lying, the raspy voice hissed. He's not just the blackmailer, he's the lover. Check their chats. They played you both ways. Click. Marko's blood ran cold. He reopened Eliot's phone, dug into deleted messages, and there it was, flirty texts, late-night plans, Tyler's love, woven with threats. Double-crossed. The room tilted as the truth hit, not just a fling or a scheme, but a twisted knot of both. Eliot begged from the couch. Marko, please! But the mask was off, and Marko was done. The party's fallout hung heavy, spilled vodka pooling on the floor, the TV still glowing with damning tickets, the air thick with stunned silence. Eliot sat crumpled on the couch, hands shaking, as Tyler's exit left a void of whispers. Marko's phone buzzed with texts, friends demanding the tea, but he ignored them, locking eyes with Eliot. Trapped? He echoed, voice a razor. Spill it. All of it. Guests hovered, some slipping out, others glued to the drama. Eliot's head dropped, and the floodgates broke. It started last year, he rasped. I was broke, took cash from a client's advance, stupid, desperate. Tyler found out, held it over me. Said he'd ruin me, clients, cops, everything. Marko's jaw clenched. Eliot kept going, tears streaking. He pushed me to hang out, act close, said it'd keep him quiet. I didn't love him, Marko. I couldn't tell you, you're so sure of us, and I'm a mess. My mom still prays I'll fix myself, clients smirk at my vibe. With you, it's real, and I'm terrified I'll wreck it. Marko's chest ached, but he didn't budge. So you planned Seattle? Left me out. Eliot nodded, shattered. Tyler wanted a clean break, new city, new life. I was gonna go, then confess later. I couldn't face you, your faith, the way you fight for this. He waved at the apartment, the life they'd carved. I'm not strong like you. Marko stared, the confession a gut punch. Not just betrayal, cowardice, twisted by Tyler's strings and Eliot's shame. You're done, Marko said, flat and final. Get out. Eliot pleaded. Marko, I love you. But Marko pointed to the door. Eliot grabbed his bag and stumbled into the night, a shadow of the man Marko once knew. The apartment emptied, leaving him alone with the wreckage. He could have trashed the place, screamed into the void, but that wasn't him. Instead, he opened Instagram, fingers flying. Trust is gold, he typed. Fear's no excuse for lies. I'm worth more. He added a clip, a cracked coffee mug spinning on the floor, a nod to his barista soul, and posted. No names, just truth. By morning, it exploded, thousands of likes, comments flooding. You're enough, they don't deserve you. The Castro grapevine lit up. Eliot's vague, sorry, post tanked, clients ghosting him as whispers spread. Tyler's bar shifts dried up, nobody tipped a snake. Marko didn't gloat. He'd let the truth torch their world, legal and sharp, and watched it burn. That night, he climbed to the roof, the Bay Bridge glittering below. The city hummed, alive and unforgiving, and Marko faced the mirror Eliot had forced up. Had he pushed too hard? Dreamed too big in a world that rarely gave queer love a win? He thought of the slurs on late-night walks, his cousins. Tone it down. Barbs. Maybe he'd clung tight, scared of losing what they built. But Eliot's collapse wasn't his fault. Tyler's games weren't his load. He deserved better, someone who'd stand, not fold. A week later, strolling 18th Street, he spotted Eliot, alone, head down, a husk. No thrill stirred, just quiet release. Marko ducked into a cafe, ordered an espresso, and pulled out his sketchbook. I'm not perfect, he wrote. But I'm free. And I'll find what's mine. The Castro pulsed outside, drag shows starting, flags waving, a new day brewing. Marko sipped his coffee, the bitterness fading. Eliot and Tyler would carry their mess, lost trust, cracked reps, not by his fist, but by life's own reckoning. He'd rise, not with spite, but with grit, ready for whatever came next.